The cafe had perfected the art of noise. Espresso machines screamed, polished shoes clicked against marble floors, and men in tailored suits spoke too loudly about money that never seemed to touch anything real. Lena moved through it all with practiced ease, wiping counters, refilling cups, nodding politely while her mind drifted somewhere far away. Every day felt like a copy of the one before it, stretched thin and tasteless. She was reaching for a clean mug when the door opened and cold air swept inside with the rain. He didn't belong to the sound of the room. The men who came here announced themselves with laughter and cologne. This man arrived quietly, water dripping from the edge of a black hoodie, shoulders relaxed but alert, like he was prepared for the room to turn on him at any second. He paused just inside the doorway, eyes scanning faces, exits, reflections in the glass. Not nervous, calculating. Lena felt it before she understood it. A subtle shift. Conversations didn't stop, but something in the air tightened. He walked to the counter and waited without checking his phone, without fidgeting, without pretending to be busy. When it was his turn, he pushed his hood back just enough for her to see his face. Sharp lines, calm eyes, the kind of face that didn't waste expressions. "Black coffee," he said. His voice was low, even. "No sugar." She nodded. "That'll be 4. He placed a bill on the counter, more than necessary. Their fingers brushed as she reached for it, and she hated that she noticed. She hated even more that he noticed her noticing. "Keep it," he said. "For black coffee? I won't be staying long." She poured the coffee and slid it toward him. "You want a receipt?" "No." He took the cup but didn't leave. Instead, he turned and chose a seat near the window, back to the wall, eyes on the room. Lena watched him longer than she meant to. He didn't sip right away. He waited, counting seconds, watching reflections in the glass like they were telling him a story no one else could hear. "Lena," she blinked. Her coworker Mia was staring at her. "You're zoning out again." "Sorry." Mia followed her gaze and smirked. "Hoodie guy. He's just a customer." "Sure," Mia said. "That's why you forgot the milk for table 6. Lena grabbed the milk and forced herself back into motion. Still, she felt him there, like a low hum she couldn't tune out. When she glanced again, he was watching her. Not openly, not obviously, but he was aware of her in the same quiet, unsettling way he seemed aware of everything. He came back the next day. Same hoodie, same seat, same order. By the 3rd day, Lena noticed patterns. He never arrived at the same time, but never during rush hour. He stayed exactly long enough to finish his drink and no longer. He always sat where he could see the door, and every time someone raised their voice too suddenly, his hands stilled around his cup, knuckles tightening for half a second before relaxing again. On the 4th day, she spoke to him without meaning to. "Rough weather," she said as she set down his coffee. He looked up at her, surprised, as if he hadn't expected conversation from her at all. "Weather's honest," he replied. "People aren't." She frowned slightly. "That's cheerful." A corner of his mouth lifted, not quite a smile. "Didn't say I liked honesty." She should have walked away. Instead, she leaned against the counter. "You don't like sugar, receipts, or people. Anything you do like." He studied her for a long moment, eyes sharp but not unkind. "Quiet places," he said, "and routines that don't ask questions." "Then you picked the wrong cafe." "Maybe," he said, "or maybe I picked the only one that pretends not to notice." That unsettled her more than it should have. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means you see more than you let on," he said calmly. "And you mind your business." Lena straightened. "I don't even know your name." He stood, leaving his empty cup behind. "That's for the best." For 2 days after that, he didn't come. Lena told herself she didn't care. Told herself it was ridiculous to notice the absence of a stranger she'd exchanged fewer than 10 sentences with. Still, her eyes went to the door every time it opened, her attention snagging on black jackets that turned out to be someone else. On the 3rd day, the men arrived. They weren't regulars. Their suits were expensive but careless, jackets unbuttoned. eyes sharp in a way that had nothing to do with ambition. One of them approached the counter, smiling too easily. "Morning," he said. "We're looking for someone." Mia leaned forward. "If you're waiting for a table." "He wears a hoodie," the man interrupted. "Sits by the window." Lena's pulse jumped. She kept her voice steady. "Lots of people sit by the window." The man's smile widened. "Does he talk to you?" "No." "Shame," he said lightly. "If he comes back, you let him know we stopped by." "And who should I say was looking for him?" The man leaned closer. "Friends." They left without ordering anything. When Lena turned, she found Mia staring at her. "What was that about?" "Nothing," Lena said, too quickly. "Just weird customers." But her hands were shaking. He came back that night. It was nearly closing time, rain falling hard enough to blur the streetlights outside. Lena was wiping down tables when the door opened, and there he was, water streaking his hoodie, eyes instantly finding hers. Her relief startled her. "You're late," she said before she could stop herself. His gaze sharpened. "Did someone come looking for me?" The way he asked it told her lying would be pointless. She nodded. "2 men. Suits. Not your friends." His jaw tightened. He glanced toward the door, then back to her. "Did you tell them anything?" "No." "Good." He hesitated, then added quietly, "You should go home. It's my job." "Not tonight." Something in his tone sent a chill through her. "Why?" He met her eyes fully now, the calm finally cracking. "Because I didn't mean to drag you into this." "Into what?" Before he could answer, the cafe door opened again. And this time, the men didn't pretend to smile. The bell above the cafe door rang sharply, cutting through the low hum of the espresso machine. Lena felt the sound hit her chest like a warning shot. The 2 men stepped inside, rain slicking their hair, eyes already locked on the man in the hoodie. He didn't move. He simply set his coffee down and slowly turned his head, meeting their stare with something cold and unreadable. "You shouldn't be here," he said. One of the men laughed. "Funny. That's exactly what our boss said about you." Mia froze behind the counter. "Hey, we're closing." "Not now," the second man snapped without looking at her. His focus stayed on the hoodie man. "You made things difficult." "I warned him," the hoodie man replied evenly. "He didn't listen." Lena's heart pounded so loudly she was sure everyone could hear it. She took a step back, instinct screaming at her to put distance between herself and whatever was about to happen. The first man took another step forward. "You think disappearing makes you untouchable?" The hoodie man stood. He wasn't tall in an intimidating way, but there was something about the way he rose, unhurried, controlled, that made even Lena's breath catch. "You're in public," he said calmly. "You won't do anything here." The second man smiled thinly. "You're right." Then he looked at Lena. "And that's unfortunate." Everything happened at once. The first man reached into his jacket. Lena gasped, the sound sharp and helpless. Before she could think, the hoodie man moved, fast and precise. He knocked the man's arm upward, metal clattering as something skidded across the floor. He shoved the other man back into a table, cups crashing, coffee splashing everywhere. "Run!" he snapped at Lena without looking at her. She hesitated for half a second too long. The second man recovered and lunged, grabbing her wrist hard enough to hurt. "You're not going anywhere." Fear sliced through her. "Let go." The hoodie man turned, eyes flashing. He crossed the space in 2 strides and twisted the man's arm with brutal efficiency. The grip loosened instantly, a choked curse escaping as the man dropped to his knees. Sirens wailed in the distance. Someone must have called already. The hoodie man grabbed Lena's hand. "Now." They ran through the back exit, rain soaking them instantly. Lena struggled to keep up, her shoes slipping on wet pavement as he pulled her down an alley she'd never noticed before, past dumpsters and flickering lights. "Where are we going?" she panted. "Somewhere you won't be followed." "How do you know?" "Because I planned for this." That didn't help. They stopped abruptly beside a nondescript black car. He opened the door and pushed her inside before circling to the driver's seat. The engine roared to life just as shouting echoed behind them. Lena looked back through the rain-streaked window as the cafe disappeared behind them. Her hands were trembling uncontrollably. "You okay?" he asked, eyes never leaving the road. She swallowed. "You disarmed a man in 10 seconds. No, I'm not okay." He exhaled slowly.
I'm sorry.
"That's it." Her voice cracked. "That's all you're going to say?" "I can say more," he replied quietly. "But I won't lie to you." Silence filled the car, broken only by the rain and her uneven breathing. After a moment, she said, "They were looking for you." "Yes. And now they know me." "Yes." She laughed once, sharp and hysterical. "I don't even know your name." He finally glanced at her. "Evan." She stared at him. "That's it. It's the only one you need." They drove for nearly 20 minutes, weaving through streets Lena barely recognized. Finally, he pulled into an underground parking garage beneath a residential building. "You live here?" she asked.
No.
"Then why?" "It's safe for tonight." He led her upstairs to a sparsely furnished apartment. Clean, minimal, no photos.
No personal touches.
"You plan to leave," she said. "Yes. And what about me?" He turned to face her fully. "You shouldn't have been involved at all." "But I am." His jaw tightened. "That's why you're here." Anger flared through her fear. "You don't get to decide what happens to me." "I know," he said softly. "That's why I'm giving you the truth." She crossed her arms. "Then start talking." He hesitated, then nodded. "I built something that made very powerful people uncomfortable. I exposed it. They decided I was easier to erase than to argue with." "You're talking about money," she said. "And control." She shook her head. "Those men were ready to hurt people. They already have." The weight of that settled between them. "How long have you been running?" she asked. "Long enough to stop pretending I can have normal things." Her eyes flicked to him. "Like coffee in a cafe?" "Like you," he almost said, but didn't. Instead, he said, "I never meant to put you in danger." "But you did." "Yes." She paced the room, adrenaline still buzzing under her skin. "So what now?" "Now," he said, "you sleep. Tomorrow, I make sure you're safe." "And you?" she asked. "I disappear." The word hit harder than she expected. She looked at him, really looked at him, and felt the strange pull that had been there since the first day tighten painfully in her chest. "You don't get to vanish after this." "I don't have a choice." She stepped closer. "Maybe you do." For the first time, he looked unsure. Sirens echoed faintly in the distance again, a reminder that the world hadn't paused for them. Lena exhaled shakily. "If you leave, they'll keep coming." "Yes. And if you stay, they'll burn everything around me." She met his gaze. "Then maybe it's already burning." The silence between them stretched, thick with unspoken things. Finally, he said quietly, "You should hate me." She shook her head. "I don't." And that somehow terrified them both. Lena didn't sleep. She lay on the unfamiliar couch, staring at the ceiling while the rain tapped softly against the windows. Every sound felt amplified. The hum of the refrigerator, the distant siren far away, the quiet movement of Evan pacing somewhere in the apartment. He hadn't gone to bed. She could feel his restlessness like a second heartbeat in the room. At some point, she sat up. "You're not even pretending to rest." He stopped pacing. "I don't sleep when things are unsettled." "Things are always unsettled for you, aren't they?" He didn't answer immediately. When he did, his voice was quieter. "That's why I don't let people close." "And yet," she said, swinging her legs off the couch, "here we are." He turned to face her. The low light caught his features, stripped of their usual guarded calm. He looked tired, not physically, emotionally. "You should leave in the morning," he said. "I'll arrange transport, somewhere far. They won't connect you to me if you disappear quickly." She stood. "You keep saying that like I'm luggage." "I'm trying to keep you alive." "I didn't ask you to." "You didn't have to." That made her flinch. "So that's it? I was just collateral damage?" No, he said immediately. You were unexpected. Funny, she snapped. That's not comforting. He exhaled and ran a hand through his hair, frustration cracking his composure. I noticed you because you were different. You watched without judging. You didn't ask questions. I thought you were safe to be around. And now I know I was wrong. Her chest tightened. You think I'm weak. I think you're brave enough to get hurt, he said. And I won't be the reason. She took a step closer. You don't get to decide what I can handle. He met her gaze. Then tell me, are you ready to wake up every day looking over your shoulder? To lose your job, your friends, your anonymity? Because that's what staying near me means. She hesitated. The truth pressed heavily against her ribs. I don't know, she admitted. But I know this, if I walk away now, I'll spend the rest of my life wondering what I ran from. Something shifted in his expression. Not hope. Something more dangerous. Curiosity gets people killed, he said. Loneliness kills too, she replied. The words hung between them, raw and exposed. He looked away first. Morning came too fast. Evan handed her a phone over a simple breakfast she barely touched. This one's clean. No contacts. No location services. You're very prepared for someone who claims not to plan attachments, she said. His mouth tightened. Habit. A knock sounded at the door. Both of them froze. Evan moved instantly, motioning her behind him as he approached the door silently. He checked the peephole, his jaw hardening. Who is it? Lena whispered. Someone who shouldn't be here. He opened the door just enough to speak. A woman stood in the hallway, composed and impeccably dressed, her eyes sharp and assessing. You've made a mess. You're not supposed to know where I am, Evan said flatly. She smiled faintly. I always know where you are. Lena's heart pounded as the woman's gaze slid past Evan, landing on her. So this is her, the woman said. Evan stepped fully into the doorway. Leave. The woman laughed softly. You don't get to give orders anymore. Then start talking, Evan said. Because if you're here, it means the situation has escalated. The woman nodded. You could say that. Your old partners are panicking. Money's moving. Names are being spoken aloud. And someone put a price on your silence. Lena's breath caught. Silence about what? The woman's eyes flicked to her again. Oh, she doesn't know. Evan's voice was ice. She knows enough. Does she? The woman asked calmly. Does she know you didn't just expose corruption? You kept evidence? Lena stared at him. You told me you exposed them. I did, Evan said. But I also made sure they couldn't erase it. The woman nodded approvingly. Smart. Dangerous. Very you. And now? Lena asked quietly. And now? The woman replied. They're hunting the proof, and anyone connected to it. Lena's stomach dropped. Including me. Yes. Evan turned on the woman. You weren't supposed to involve civilians. She shrugged. You involved her the moment you looked twice. Silence fell again. Who are you? Lena asked. Someone who cleans up messes, the woman replied, and decides which ones are worth saving. And what did you decide about us? Lena asked. The woman studied her thoughtfully. That depends on you. Evan stiffened. She's not a bargaining chip. Everyone is, the woman said gently. Even you. Lena swallowed. What do you want? Simple, the woman said. You disappear. Both of you. On my terms. Evan shook his head. They'll never stop. They will if the evidence disappears with you, the woman said. No proof, no leverage. Lena looked at Evan. You said you wouldn't lie. I'm not, he said. But giving it up means trusting the people who want me dead. And keeping it means running forever, Lena said. Yes. The woman folded her arms. Decide quickly. They're closer than you think. As if summoned, Evan's phone buzzed in his pocket. He checked it once and went pale. They found the cafe, he said quietly. They're asking questions. Lena's chest tightened. Mia. Evan cursed under his breath. I didn't want this. Neither did I, Lena said. But we don't get to undo it. She looked at the woman. If we disappear with the evidence, what happens after? The woman met her gaze. If you survive long enough, freedom. And if we don't, then it won't matter, she said calmly. Evan grabbed Lena's hand. We're not doing this. She squeezed his fingers back. You don't get to decide alone anymore. He searched her face, torn between fear and something dangerously close to hope. We need a plan, Lena said. The woman smiled slightly. Good, because I already have one. Outside, somewhere below them, a car engine idled too long. Evan looked toward the window. They're here. Lena's pulse roared in her ears. Then we move. He nodded once. Stay close to me. She didn't hesitate. I already am. And as they slipped out the back stairwell, the line between survival and surrender grew thinner with every step. The stairwell smelled like dust and old paint, every footstep echoing too loudly in Lena's ears. Evan moved ahead of her, one hand gripping the railing, the other never far from her wrist, guiding without slowing. The woman followed behind them, unhurried, as if chaos bent itself around her schedule. By the time they reached the parking level, voices echoed near the entrance. Stop, the woman murmured. They froze behind a concrete pillar. Two men stood near the exit, speaking into phones, scanning the garage with impatient energy. They're early, Evan muttered. They usually are, the woman replied, which is why we're not going that way. She turned and led them deeper into the garage, past rows of parked cars and flickering lights. Lena's chest tightened with every shadow. Her mind kept jumping back to the cafe, to Mia's confused face, to how ordinary everything had felt just hours ago. They reached a steel door marked staff only. The woman tapped a code. The door clicked open. Inside was a narrow corridor leading to a freight elevator. Down, the woman said. Down where? Lena asked. Somewhere quiet. The elevator descended longer than Lena expected. When the doors opened, they stepped into a dim, underground level that felt nothing like a residential building. The air was colder. The walls were reinforced. Cameras blinked softly from the corners. What is this place? Lena whispered. A forgotten one, the woman said, which makes it useful. They moved quickly through the corridor into a room filled with monitors, cables, and a single table at the center. Evan stopped short when he saw the locked case sitting on it. They found this too, he said grimly. The woman shook her head. No. I brought it. Lena frowned. You have the evidence? Copies, the woman corrected. Enough to burn half the city if released properly. Evan's shoulders sagged slightly, the tension in him shifting. You could have handed this over weeks ago. Yes, the woman agreed. But then we wouldn't know who was still loyal, or how desperate they'd become. Lena stared at her. You let people get hurt to test them? The woman met her gaze evenly. People were already getting hurt. I just stopped pretending otherwise. Evan turned away, anger simmering beneath his control. What's the plan? We wait, the woman said. They'll come to us. As if on cue, one of the monitors flickered to life. A familiar face appeared, sharp suit, polished smile, eyes like knives. Evan, the man said smoothly. You've been difficult to reach. Evan stepped forward. You sent men into a public cafe. The man sighed. You forced our hand. Lena felt something snap inside her. She stepped beside Evan. You don't get to talk about hands. You grabbed people who had nothing to do with this. The man's gaze slid to her. Interest sparked. Ah, so this is the complication. She's not part of your game, Evan said coldly. Everyone is, the man replied. The difference is whether they know it. Lena clenched her fists. What do you want? Resolution, the man said. The evidence. All of it. And then what? Evan asked. Then you vanish. Permanently. Lena felt Evan tense beside her. You won't keep your word. The man smiled. You have no leverage. The woman stepped into frame for the first time. That's where you're wrong. The man's smile faltered. You. Me. she confirmed. I've already scheduled the release. One click, and everything goes public. Silence stretched across the line. You wouldn't, the man said. I will, she replied calmly, unless you agree to our terms. And what are those? He asked tightly. Immunity for them, she said, gesturing toward Evan and Lena. New identities. Clean exits. And you? The man asked. I'll take my chances. The man studied the screen, then laughed quietly. You always were arrogant. Still am, she said. Your move. The screen went dark. Lena exhaled shakily. That's it. For now, the woman said. They'll counter. How? Lena asked. By removing you, Evan said quietly. The lights flickered. Then the alarms began to scream. They cut the feed, the woman said sharply. We're out of time. Heavy footsteps echoed from the corridor. Evan grabbed Lena's hand. Stay with me, no matter what. Her throat tightened. I'm not leaving you. Good, he said, because I don't plan to survive this without you. They ran. Gunfire cracked against concrete behind them. Lena stumbled, Evan catching her just in time, pulling her forward. The woman moved with startling precision, firing back, clearing their path without hesitation. They burst through another door into a service tunnel. Split here, the woman said. They'll follow the noise. No, Evan snapped. She met his eyes. This is where I'm useful. Lena shook her head. You said we disappear together. I said you disappear, the woman corrected gently. That was always the deal. She shoved a small drive into Evan's hand. Insurance, if they break the agreement. And you? Evan asked. She smiled faintly. I've lived long enough knowing how this ends. She turned and ran back the way they came. Lena's chest burned. We can't just leave her. She knew the cost, Evan said, pulling her forward. And if we stop, it's for nothing. They emerged into the night through a maintenance exit, the city sprawling before them, unaware of how close it had come to imploding. They didn't stop running until their lungs burned and their legs trembled. In a deserted alley, Evan pressed Lena against the wall, breathing hard. Are you hurt? No, she whispered. Are you? He shook his head, then leaned forward, resting his forehead against hers. For a moment, everything else faded. I didn't choose this life, he said quietly. But I choose you. Emotion surged through her, fierce and terrifying. Then don't disappear without me. He closed his eyes. I won't. A car pulled up at the mouth of the alley. Lena stiffened, fear flaring again. The door opened. Mia stepped out. Lena stared. Mia. Mia's face was pale, eyes wide. They came to the cafe, asked questions. I didn't know what to say. Evan swore under his breath. They're moving faster. Mia looked between them. Lena. What's going on? Lena swallowed. Everything. Sirens wailed closer now, multiplying, converging. Evan looked at Lena, decision hardening. We can't keep running. She nodded slowly. Then we stop. He searched her face. You're sure? Yes, she said. Because this ends tonight. As flashing lights spilled into the alley, Evan tightened his grip on her hand. Whatever came next, they would face it together. Rain lashed the streets as Evan, Lena, and Mia ducked behind a delivery truck, hearts hammering. The night had become a maze of shadows, sirens, and chasing headlights, each sound amplified in their fear. Lena's chest burned, not just from running but from adrenaline and the impossible pull toward Evan that she could no longer ignore. We have to move, Evan whispered, scanning the intersection. They'll cut off every route if we stay here. Lena nodded, gripping his hand tightly. Where? Follow me, he said, leading them into a narrow alleyway lined with dumpsters and flickering neon. His movements were precise, calculated, like he'd run this maze in his mind hundreds of times. She had always sensed danger around him, but tonight it felt alive, almost sentient, wrapping itself around them. They reached an abandoned warehouse. Evan pushed open the rusted doors, and the interior was dark and cavernous, empty except for a few scattered crates. He glanced back at Lena and Mia. "Hide. Do not move unless I tell you." Lena crouched behind a stack of wooden crates, adrenaline thrumming in her veins. Her mind raced. Every step Evan took, every breath she drew, was tethered to the precarious balance of life and death. The distant sound of heavy boots echoed through the warehouse floor above them. Evan stepped forward into the open, hands raised slightly. "We don't have to do this," he called. His voice was calm, but every inch of his body screamed readiness. A voice answered, smooth and dangerous. "Evan, you've been very inconvenient." From the shadows emerged men in tailored suits, faces familiar from earlier encounters at the cafe. But this time, there were more of them, and each carried the kind of quiet authority that suggested lethal intent. Evan didn't flinch. "I'm done running," he said, "but leave her out of this." "Interesting," the leader said. "You've grown attached. How sentimental." Lena's pulse spiked. She wanted to run, but she stayed frozen behind the crates, fear tightening her chest. She could feel Evan's presence near, steady and protective, his every muscle coiled like a spring. Suddenly, one of the men lunged. Evan moved faster, intercepting him with brutal precision, twisting the attacker's arm and sending him crashing into a stack of crates. Gunfire rang out, echoing violently through the warehouse. Lena ducked instinctively, covering her ears, heart racing like a drumbeat. Amid the chaos, Evan caught Lena's eye. "Stay down," he shouted. "Trust me." She did, though every instinct screamed against it. From behind the crates, Mia whispered, "I can't just sit here." Evan's eyes flicked toward her. "Quiet. Every sound gives them advantage." The firefight continued, but Evan's movements were masterful. He disarmed one man, used another as a shield, and maneuvered through the chaos with a terrifying elegance. Lena watched, both horrified and mesmerized, as the man she had quietly admired for days transformed into a force of pure survival. When the last attacker fell or fled, Evan dropped to his knees, chest heaving, but his eyes immediately sought Lena. She rushed to him, wrapping her arms around his neck, trembling from relief, fear, and the intensity of what they'd just survived. "You're alive," she whispered, voice breaking. "I am," he said, voice low, rough with emotion. "Because you're here." She pressed her forehead to his. "We could have died." "I know," he murmured. "But not today. Not while I still have you." Mia approached, looking shaken but determined. "We need to disappear. Fully. No one can find us." Evan nodded. "Agreed. But first—" He looked at Lena, eyes locking with hers in a way that stole the air from the room. "We need a choice. Walk away from this life with me, or go back to what's left of normal." Lena felt the weight of the decision press down on her. Every logical part of her screamed to say yes, to choose safety, but her heart knew there was no safety without him. She swallowed, the tremor in her voice masking the certainty she felt. "I'm not leaving you," she said. Evan's lips curved into a faint, almost imperceptible smile. "Good," he said, voice steady. "Because I won't let you go." They moved quickly afterward, the woman who had helped them earlier waiting with a vehicle and the safe route she had promised. Evan guided Lena and Mia to the car, eyes never leaving the shadows for a moment. As they drove away, Lena leaned against the window, watching the city lights blur past, adrenaline slowly fading into exhaustion. She felt the weight of what they had survived, the danger that still loomed, and the strange, undeniable connection that had formed between her and Evan in the fire of chaos. He reached over, brushing her hand gently with his. "We're not safe yet, but we're moving in the right direction," he said softly. She squeezed his hand back. "Together, together," he confirmed, eyes locking with hers again, filled with something fierce, protective, and unyielding. By the time dawn broke, they were miles away from the city, hidden in a remote cabin where no one could track them. Evan and Lena sat outside, wrapped in blankets, watching the sun rise over the mountains. It was quiet, serene, an almost impossible contrast to the storm they had left behind. "I can't believe we made it," Lena whispered. "We did," Evan said, voice low, brushing a strand of wet hair from her face. "Because we trust each other." "And now?" she asked. "Now," he said, leaning close, "we live, and we rebuild. No past, no hunters, just us." Lena smiled, feeling the first genuine peace she had known in days. "Then I'm not going anywhere." Evan held her hand tighter. "Good, because I'll never let you go." They watched the sun climb higher, warmth seeping into their bones, knowing the danger wasn't gone but the connection. The bond forged in chaos would hold them through whatever came next. And as the world woke around them, Lena and Evan finally allowed themselves to breathe, for the first time together, unbroken. If you enjoyed this story and want to see more thrilling tales like this, don't forget to subscribe to Urban Folks TV, like, and drop your comment below. Tell us who your favorite character was and what you would do if you were in Lena's shoes. Your support helps us create even more exciting stories. See you next time.